Badger fans, let's talk a little bit of what Braedyn Locke brings to this offense. Can it be successful? How quickly do we even have to talk about potentially pulling the plug there? Your comments, your thoughts, live show. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in. A late live show. I'm out on Hawaii time, so this is convenient for me. Maybe not for you. I'm sorry. I'm your host, Ryan Harris. Thank you for tuning in. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, all customers, if you bet $5, you get a 3-week free trial NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube TV. Go over to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk Braedyn Locke. I think we got to start there. Because we've had a bye week, we've had some time to not talk about the biggest elephant in the room. Braedyn Locke is a starting quarterback for the rest of the year. What does that look like? Like specifically, how does the offense change? What is his ceiling? Is there a chance if he doesn't play well enough, maybe Metoyer gets reps, right? What are we talking about there? What does that look like? What has to happen for that to get to there? So I want to start with Braedyn Locke. Good and bad, my thoughts on that. And I have some comments I want to get into. I got a bunch of comments that we're going to get into as well. The good, Braedyn Locke fits what I don't think people love. I don't even have to say think. I know people don't love what we've seen from the Badgers offense, but Braedyn Locke fits it a little better. If in the coaches' rooms, they're talking about we need to be conservative, we need to run the ball, for whatever reason, we're going to play this more point guardish type of offense where we're going to distribute quickly. We're not going to take a bunch of deep shots. Braedyn Locke's a better fit for that than Tyler Van Dyke, in my opinion. That's who he is. That's from the moment he got onto campus. This is the guy who can distribute the ball. This is the guy who can quickly make reads and decisions to get the ball out. Maybe not the biggest arm, maybe not the most athletic, certainly not the biggest guy, but in some ways, he might fit what this version of the Badgers offense needs to do a little bit better. And it's not the offense I think Wisconsin fans wanted to see, but Locked On Illinois guy just texted me. But he might fit a little better. Now, the downside is a lot of what you were hoping from this offense. I don't think Braedyn Locke can, if you're expecting a lot of improvement, if you're expecting a guy who's going to run a bunch, who's going to be used in the RPO game, I think you lose elements of this game because Braedyn Locke's a quarterback. You lose elements of the big arm. You lose elements of the size. We saw a bunch of Braedyn Locke passes get tipped at the line of scrimmage. That's an issue going back to last year. That's a bigger issue with Braedyn Locke because unlike other shorter quarterbacks, like a Russell Wilson, who did an unbelievable job of finding the passing lanes. If you're a shorter quarterback, you have to have a feel for feathering the ball through passing lanes. You have to have a feel for shifting in the pocket and finding the pockets that you can deliver passes in. Braedyn Locke up to this point hasn't shown a ton of that. And he's not quite as mobile, but again, he may fit this offense a little bit better. At what point, and we're going to get into some comments about it. Again, this is more of y'all's show, like live comments. I got a bunch of comments from the YouTube chat, a couple from the Discord we're going to put up there. We're just going to talk about what's on y'all's mind. But the Mabry Metoyer thing, I keep seeing people say there needs to be a short leash for Braedyn Locke. What's Mabry going to do? Here's what Mabry in the short term is going to do. And I think in some ways this is really beneficial. He's going to start getting a bunch of number 2 reps. Mabry's going to get a bunch more practice with the 1s and the 2s, right? Because he's now the break class in case of emergency quarterback. He's the guy, right? Braedyn Locke runs to the sideline, twists an ankle. Heaven forbid, I would never, ever root for any type of injury or hope for any, or not even want to speak that into existence. But Mabry's the guy now. That's why Curtis and I were going back and forth on the other show, and Curtis was talking a little bit about you're still going to have to run him a little bit. It's still going to be part of the offense. Man, you can't take many shots with him because if he gets hurt, Mabry's coming in, and I don't think Mabry's quite ready. But in 4 weeks, where he's getting consistent reps with the 2s and the 1s, he's getting more practice. Maybe in that case, that's when if Braedyn Locke continues to struggle or struggles. I don't want to say continues to struggle because it's not fair to say, oh, you came in the middle of a Bama game after getting number 2 reps and didn't play well. I agree with Curtis on that and a lot of other people. It's not fair to judge him on that. But if he doesn't improve from that performance in 2 or 3 weeks into the Braedyn Locke 2024 era, if we're still talking about, bro, you're getting your passes knocked down at line of scrimmage, you're not finding passing lanes, you're not hitting deep shots, you're fumbling in the pocket, your pocket awareness isn't there. If that continues to happen, you got to really start talking about Mabry. Because at that point, Locke probably isn't the guy. And I'll also say, I don't think players are quite as fragile as a lot of people think. Like, Mabry played Texas 5A football. He related when I had Mabry on the show, and if y'all are everydayers and you heard the Mabry Vettori interview, you probably remember this. He was talking about his first 2 high school games his senior year, right, playing in Texas. They didn't go well. They played powerhouses, and he was talking about he walked into the cafeteria. Think about this. This is the BMOC, big man on campus. He's going to play at Wisconsin. He's a 6'4", legit quarterback, right? He walked in his cafeteria and people were booing him in Texas in high school, right? Because his first 2 games as senior season weren't very good. This is a guy who threw 1 pick his senior year. So I think there's some mental toughness there. I don't think you're going to throw him onto the football field and ruin him. I think fans make a little too much of that. You don't want to throw him on the football field, though, and have him get crushed, right? You don't want to throw him on the football field and have him – and he's so far away from playing that he's not making right reads. Then he's starting to develop bad habits. I think 3 or 4 weeks of getting reps with the 2s, if he had to go in, it's going to be a simplified playbook, but he does give you some stuff physically. That being said, this is Braedyn Locke's show, period. There should be no talk of one bad rep from Locke and maybe it's Mabry Vettori time. That's not going to happen. You have to give Braedyn Locke a fair opportunity. You have to. Again, this show is built on the foundation. It's built on the belief that everybody fans how you want to fan. If you're out there and you're saying, I'm done with Locke and it's Mabry time, cool. I'm not going to tell you no. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to fan. That's what this show's about. What I would say, to me, you got to give Locke an opportunity. You got to give him a fair chance. Because going in the middle of a game against Alabama is not a fair chance. And I didn't think he played well. Even given that, I thought he underwhelmed. I've said that on the show. I'm curious to see what it looks like against USC and Purdue. He needs a couple weeks. And if after a couple weeks it's still lackluster, then okay, maybe we need to talk about it. Maybe then we need to start talking about Mabry, but we're not there yet. That's my Locke standpoint. I don't think it's a total. I don't think there's 0 scenarios where this works out for the Badgers. I think if you squint, you can see a quarterback who might be built a little better for the offense the Badgers need to run this season. He's a guy that Longo thinks highly of. Former 4-star quarterback. There is some stuff there. He's got to play better. All right, let's get some comments because, again, this is y'all's show. Slim Lewis, go Badgers. He said he'd been a Badger fan since 72. I ain't about to give up on him now. Let's go, Slim. I love that. Because, again, like, I'm a Badger fan too. People will get on me, man, about being too negative. Like I don't like talking like that, but what do you want me to say after you get beat 42-10? Yeah, like, I don't like those shows, man. I want a positivity show. Beating Bama would have been the greatest show in the last year for me. It would have been incredible. But I gotta also call it like it is. Badger fan says 1:45 a.m. Eastern, but always time for the Badgers. What's up, buddy? Yeah, I moved from the East Coast, so let me know where you're dialing in from out in that side of the field. Adamato says, dude, your hours are so random. Let's go. Yeah, I'm out in Hawaii, man, Adam. But thank you for dialing in. Good friend of the show. Rick Mueller says B-Lock will not be the starter. Like, for how long? When you say will not be the starter, like, for how long are you talking? I'm curious. I don't know, because he's going to be the starter for a while. Bama Standard says, hey, brother, love the late night show. Yeah, listen, Bama's really good. For any Bama fans that might be randomly tuning into this, that's the standard that you're trying to get up to. Bama Standard obviously does a great job. We did some collaboration stuff. He said, also, we as Alabama fans appreciate the respect and hospitality this past week. You guys are great fans. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that. Like, I wish we could have put a better foot forward. And, yeah. But, no, I do appreciate that. Let's see. Slim Lewis says, we saw Tretch and Pauling get wide open against Bama. Just need a quarterback to get them the ball. Also like how tough Dupree runs inside. He's a dog. Going to be special. We need to recruit and develop defensive line. Yes. On that last point, yes. And they're doing it. You know, Curtis, like, so I've been a little frustrated in that sense. Curtis came on, and I thought Curtis made a great show if you guys are a great point if you guys missed it. He said, listen, last year they brought in, with the transfers, I think it was 5 defensive linemen. This next year, you're thinking of Oponu's coming in, Torin Petaway's coming in, Samuel Ateju, who I think is going to be a defensive end, is coming in. Wilnerson Telemock is coming in. Like, they're bringing in bodies, right? They really are. But, gosh, it takes a while, right? It takes a while. Defensive line is like a factory. Think of it like a factory, right? We want to produce this widget. We're going to produce a widget that holds bananas, whatever it is. It doesn't matter, right? But to produce that widget, you first have to get the raw materials. Then you have to set up the assembly line. Then you have to produce it. Then you have to finish it. That's like defense line recruiting. Like, we understand this defense line has to get better, but you can't just do that, right? So you have to bring in the guys, and then you have to develop them. Then you have to hit the weight room. It's 2 years down the road before those dudes start making meaningful impacts, unless you hit the absolute jackpot, unless you hit a Keanu Benton. And those are rare. Those are rare for elite schools, let alone a Wisconsin that isn't going to pull from the elite ranks of the college 5-star defense alignment. So it's a process, and that's frustrating, and it's tough because until that process matures, you're going to continue to see teams be able to run the ball against us. You're going to continue to see our front seven exploited to some degree. It's difficult, but there is no quick fix, and they got to be better in the portal, but there is no quick fix. All right, let's take a quick break for our friends of the show. Come back. I got a bunch more comments from the YouTube channel we're going to get into, a bunch of stuff on the show. Again, this is y'all's show, community show, Badgers After Dark. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show. And also, always really do appreciate everybody tuning in. Our first friends of the show are our good friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is something we've talked about a lot. Definitely a partner that we've been collaborating with for a long time. FanDuel is the number one sportsbook you want to go to. Easy user interface, fast and simple to make your bets. I always say, please do responsibly. And right now, FanDuel is doing something different. Through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get that's uno, dos, tres, free week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV. Then with YouTube TV Baseline, you'll be able to watch every regular season NFL Sunday Ticket game out of market. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. So FanDuel's going to hook you up with more NFL action, and we already know they are the best sportsbook you're going to find. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Today's episode is also brought to you by our new and great friends over at Roy. I've talked about this a little bit. This is unique, y'all. Like, we got to pique our interest here. Roy stands for Return on You. It's a new entry into the NIL marketplace. This allows fans to have a little bit more control over the roster, a little bit more control over their NIL budget. Roy, what it allows you to do is you can pay and fund directly your favorite athletes. Will Pauling, if you wanted to. Treshka Kahuna, if you wanted to. You're going to get exclusive content for those fans that funded those athletes. When fans contribute to a successful campaign, they receive exclusive content from that athlete, announcement decisions, behind-the-scenes footage, that kind of stuff. You're also able to help shape the roster, help determine who's going to stay by contributing directly to that athlete's NIL fund. No risk contribution. Fans are the contributions are held securely, right, until and only distributed when the athlete hits certain decisions that align with the fan support. Right now, download Roy for iOS or Android, enter referral code LOCKEDON, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. Visit Roy.com for additional details. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. All right, let's get back into this conversation. A bunch more of your comments I want to get to. And again, we're just doing a live show I've had so many comments on the last, y'all, like, I've been overwhelmed with the amount of comments and Twitter accounts and things I'm trying to respond to. And I apologize for everyone I haven't got back to quick enough. 100%, that's on me. Like, I can make an excuse. I'm in Hawaii. I don't have my normal setup. It's tough at times to find the hours to do everything I'm trying to do, but I appreciate y'all so much. And this was a way to get some of those comments into the show. So this is from Robert. He said, I understand what you're talking about with Locke, but this is in response. So Curtis Holland said, you got to be more patient with Locke. So Robert's saying, I understand that, but he looks scared, lost. He just missed. I think you only give him a half against USC. If it looks bad, you have to make the switch. So Robert, first of all, thank you for the comment, but I disagree. This is what I was talking about the initial. You have to, Locke's going to get 2 or 3 games. He has to. You have to give him 2 or 3 games, not only because he deserves that. Like, he was ahead of Mabry Montoya in Platteville. He was ahead of him. He looked better than he did. I think you're going to get a better version of Locke, but I don't think Mabry's ready to come in right now. Think about baseball. When we're warming up a reliever right now, Mabry just got into the bullpen. He's warming up. He's not ready to come in at halftime against USC. I'm telling y'all. So what they're going to do, they're going to protect Locke. They're going to run the ball. They're going to try to take the air out of the time of possessions a little bit. Mabry's not ready. At the very minimum, Locke has to buy time. Locke has to keep the bridge from falling apart. He has to be the emergency inflatable device when this thing is crashed into the ocean to keep the 2024 Badger season afloat and alive. By the way, I probably shouldn't use that analogy because I'm flying over the Pacific in a couple days. But my point is, Mabry's not ready. It's going to be Locke for a couple games, but I do agree with you. I thought he did look kind of scared. I don't think he looked like he was ready for that moment. Mark says, hire Peyton Manning as the quarterback OC consultant assistant. I don't think we got the coffers for that, Mark, but I would love it. This is from JM. Love the show. Appreciate all the optimism. However, putting a dress on a pig is all Curtis is doing. It's especially disappointing how he talks smack about all of the other Big Ten teams. That's from JM. I do think Curtis looks at it with a degree of optimism. I'll say this about Curtis, though, is I think he's super sharp. He watches a lot of games. He watches a lot of film. He does look at it with a certain degree of optimism. And I agree with you. Like every other Big Ten team can look at Wisconsin and pick holes. But I do think it gets easier for Wisconsin, right? Alabama's really good. The schedule's lightening up. But yeah, like Curtis looks at it with a dose of optimism, as does Rajiv, which is cool. There's nothing wrong with that. Bucky63 says, air raid is a joke. We heard all this stuff about how the pass will open up the run, not happening, ! Maybe we need to scrap the air raid. I don't think we've seen the air raid. Like, I don't know what we've seen. And the bigger point I made is none of it matters unless you hit the quarterback. I talked about that on a show a couple weeks ago. And you can run air raid, pro style, wishbone, veer, flex. You can run run and shoot. You can run what? None of it matters if you can't figure out quarterback. That's it. That's the ultimate deal. And Wisconsin could run a pro style, and Alabama's going to shred them if they don't figure out the quarterback spot, right? So it all comes down to that. And the Badgers haven't been able to figure it out. Now, I agree with you. We haven't seen a very good offense, and that's on Phil Longo to figure out. But more importantly, it's on Phil Longo to figure out the quarterback spot, because until that happens, none of it matters. I don't want to hear about scheme until you get dudes. This is the same argument I made on defense. It's the exact same argument. I don't want to hear about play the 2-4-5 or the 3-3-5 until you actually get some dudes who can play either of them. Because right now you don't have enough defense linemen to play either of them. Like in numbers, you kind of do, but not in quality or depth. And offensively, I don't care. Play the air raid or play more of a power spread or play the run and shoot. It doesn't matter if you don't get the quarterback right. And that's what this staff and regime have failed to do. Look at the quarterbacks they brought in, right? And this is just me being real. This isn't even me trying to be critical. Like, I like the swings they've taken, but Nick Evers, 4-star transfer quarterback, he's already gone. He's at UConn. Braedyn Locke, I think you would say he hasn't, at the very minimum, he hasn't seized the opportunity. Tyler Van Dyke, already hurt, not his fault, but through the first 2 games, he didn't look like a difference maker necessarily, not the guy you hoped you were getting. Cole LaCrue hasn't been able to step up, take that job. Maybe Mentor is a freshman. Tanner Mordecai wasn't very good last year. So they got to get the quarterback right. That's what it's all about. Jim Case says, I'm impressed with Curtis Holland's football knowledge. Yeah, thank you, Jim, man. I love CH. I love Curtis. I think he's a really sharp guy. This is from Peter P. Let's get some positives. 2 positives. He said offensive line played pretty well. Agreed. I thought the offensive line played really well against Bama. Period. Stop. They ran the ball pretty effectively. And quite frankly, the pass protection was pretty good. It really was. A couple of those Locke fumbles, I thought the first one was on Locke. And then Locke had a couple moments where he held the ball too long, but he actually had initial pass protection. I thought the tackles played well. I thought the interior offensive line played well. I thought Brunner played well. Like, I thought the line was good. I 100% agree with that. He also said, I like how the linebacker speed ran side to side. There was more speed and athleticism in the linebacker room. I agree there as well. This is from user. The Malusi fumble was the biggest killer of that game. Yeah. I remember that's the single most frustrated I was in that game. I'm thinking it wasn't even the stuff before halftime where Bama took 2 plays to get a touchdown with 43 seconds left or whatever it was. It was the chest fumble. Like, you're the senior, you're the starting veteran running back, right? The game is hanging precariously on the edge of blowout. The Wisconsin ability to stay in the game is literally hanging off the edge of the cliff. You're backed into your own zone. You broke a play. There's one guy maybe to beat. Yeah, Bama, like, they made plays, but bro, hold on to the ball. Yeah, I agree with the user. That was a frustrating moment. Let's keep going here. A bunch more comments. This is from Jay Parks. I'm probably wrong about all this, but I favor Curtis's optimism. I'm a homer who wants to believe. Ain't nothing wrong with that, Jay Sparks. This is what we say on the show. Like, ain't nothing wrong with that. Be optimistic. And quite frankly, I do think a lot of Badger fans are too down on this team right now. Like, the pendulum has potentially swung too far. Like, I don't think you're going to get blown out by USC. And please come back and tell me if it happens. Like, the receipts will be here. I'm always here. Like, and I take all sorts of crap when I'm wrong. So, like, come back and tell me. But I don't think Wisconsin's going to get blown out by USC. I don't. because I think Wisconsin has shown the ability to run the ball a little bit, control time of possession. I think they're going to try to do that against USC, and USC offensively is not what we just saw in Bama. You also get 2 weeks to get Braedyn Locke ready. You have to go on the road to USC, but frankly, that's not a terrifying road environment. So I don't know. I'm with you, Jay Sparks. I want to be confident too. Billy Bob says, my thought on Locke, LaCrue is better. Mobile, athletic, stronger arm, and the kid's got moxie. Let's go, Billy Bob. Listen, I love LaCrue's moxie. That's the first thing I always talk about. He has the innate belief in himself that great quarterbacks do. I think he's got enough arm. He's got some mobility. He won a state championship in Colorado. I just think he's lost 2 years to injury, and he hasn't been able to catch up. All right, let's get a couple more comments here. Slim Lewis. No need to rush Mabry's development unless Locke gets hurt or he completely fails. Redshirt Mabry, give him time to develop, and most importantly, gain confidence. Yeah, I'm right there with you. You just don't rush him, man. And listen, if Mabry, I'll say this, like, subject to change. All things are subject to change. Like, Mabry starts balling out when he's getting number 2 reps and he starts looking better and better. Maybe you start to work him in, but he's not there right now. Like, he's not. Rick Mueller says, will they run Locke more the next game? I don't think so. I think they'll run him less because, again, I understand the point where you can play scared. Like, if you try not to get here, you're going to get hurt. But you can put people not in positions to get hurt a little bit more, right? I think they're going to run Locke less because they know the wrong hit is going to put Mabry into the game, and I don't think they're ready for that. Derek After Dark says, I'll be at the USC game. Can't wait. Let's go, Derek. Let's go. Fire up. Like, I wish I was going to that game. And I wish Badger fans would be a little more excited about it because what a venue. You get to go to the Coliseum to play USC before a sold-out crowd. Let's go. I think Wisconsin's going to play that one a lot closer than the Bama game. Now, I still think Wisconsin's going to lose. I called a Bama loss and a USC loss before the season, so I still think they're going to lose that game, but I think it's going to be a much better game, and I wish I was going there with you, Derek. Let's take one more quick break for our friends of the show. Come back, a bunch more of your comments. Also, as always, man, thank you all for tuning in, for being part of this community. Appreciate you more than I can say. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Gametime. Listen, I've talked about Gametime a lot. I've talked about how I've used it to get tickets. I've talked about how I've used it to get the best prices. I've talked about how I've used it to overcome logistical issues. Let me talk about something else. Let me talk about what you can do with it. Significant other in your life, get them tickets to something. Father, mother, brother, sister, somebody that you love, anybody that you love in life, get them tickets to something. What a great experience. Like, at the end of your life, and let's zone in on this. At the end of your life, you're never going to regret doing too much crap. You're never going to be on your deathbed and said, doggone it, I did too much stuff with my life. Go do stuff and let Gametime to be the vehicle that gets you there. Let's do it together. Someone come with me to an event. We'll do Gametime together. We'll get tickets. We'll sync it up. Go do more incredible things with Gametime. Sports, opera, concerts, music, theaters, whatever it is. Hook it up on Gametime right now. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Take the stress out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create the account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. And yes, this is Ryan on several IPAs doing ad reads. But I'm serious, man. Life is short. Go do stuff. Go have fun with loved ones. Or take your favorite podcaster to a game or event. That could be a thing too. All right, let's get back to the show. A bunch more comments I want to get into. Our boy, speaking of things that are exciting, Rajiv, man, I almost reached out to him to get on the show tonight, but I feel bad over asking at times. But he said, I'm going to USC too, Derek. Can't wait. Let's get in. Let's get a win in Cali, believe. Yeah, 100%. Like, guys, you're going to – it's still 2-1. We all thought Bama would be a loss. You lost your starting quarterback in the first drive. You're going to have Braedyn Locke with 2 weeks of prep. I'm telling you, I think it's going to be closer. I still think USC probably wins because, quite frankly, they have a terrifying receiving group, and they have a Lincoln Riley-led offense. But I think there's a scenario where Wisconsin just leans on them. It's a tight game, and if you're in a tight game in the fourth quarter, anything can happen. I would also be hesitant. I know a lot of people already have. I'd be hesitant writing off Braedyn Locke based on I was critical of him against Alabama, but there's a difference between being critical and saying that wasn't good enough and saying he can't do it. Okay. He didn't play good enough against Alabama. I don't care that he came off the bench cold. I expect more of him in that moment as a quarterback with experience. That does not mean he can't play better against USC, and I fully expect him to. Bama Standard says, give Locke some time, develop chemistry with the wide receivers and the guys up front. He will get there. And Bama Standard, I love them already. Like that. Let's get more of them on the show. Couple more comments I want to get into. Again, this is y'all's show. It's a late show because I'm kind of on Hawaii time. So I appreciate everybody just kind of sticking through. This one from GT Mueller, who is a good friend of the show, says, Locke will be better with 2 weeks of prep. Different game plan. How can anyone not look forward to USC? Yes. Young men come to play Big Ten teams, not directional schools. That's a great – I love it. I'm really – the intent of the show really wasn't to be like a hyper-positive show, I promise you. Like, that's not what I set out to do. But, again, several IPAs in, late-night Hawaii time. But the more I talk about it, like, the more I just am getting excited about this USC opportunity. And I think there's an element of this is a huge moment for the program this season, right? If you come out against USC, I still think there's an avenue here where you can find some hope as a Badger fan, I guess is what I'm saying. If you come out against USC and it looks exactly like it did the first 3 weeks or worse, right, then it gets really difficult. But if you come out against USC and you see an offense that's adjusted a little bit to Braedyn Locke, you see the running game going, I think you can find hope for a lot of the rest of the year because there's opportunities for wins here, and there are things Braedyn Locke can bring to this offense that I think are kind of uniquely suited to what he can do. On the other side, Will Cincy says Locke has no mobility, plus he can't seem to feel pressure. How many throws were slapped down? Play someone else. I'm not saying that's an unfair perspective. I'm not. I'm a little more optimistic for what we could see against Braedyn Locke, who quite frankly hasn't had a ton of great chances so far in his young career, coming in against Iowa, having to play against Ohio State, having to come in against Cole against Bama. Let's see what he let's say this. Can everybody just collectively say, take a breath, hit the pause button on the remote or on the TV, whatever it is, and say, okay, let's see what he looks like against USC with 2 weeks. And then let's make some judgments. I think that's fair, and that's where I'm at. If you don't want to do that, that's cool too, but that's where I'm at. Dan B said, we hurt ourselves more than Alabama beat us. 2 wide receivers open, no touchdowns. Alabama didn't stop those touchdowns. Terrible call on 4th and 1. 2 fumbles, 1 caused by Bama. Yeah, I hear you, man. There was a lot of self-inflicted stuff, but here's the thing. Bama also beat us, right? Like, you can – the difference is Bama had self-inflicted stuff too. Bama missed a field goal. Bama also got stopped on some 3rd downs. The difference is they're so talented, they can overcome the missed opportunities, whereas Wisconsin can't. So, yeah, there was a lot of shooting ourselves in the foot. A lot of that is also caused by Bama, right? A couple of those fumbles are caused by the fact that Bama has freakish athletes on defense. There is a skill in forcing fumbles, right? Look at Chris Borland for Wisconsin, punching out a Wisconsin record number of fumbles. There is a skill to that. You know, look at Tillman in the NFL with the Bears. Like, Bama, and part of that skill is just being more athletic, being stronger, being faster, being bigger, being more physical. Do we need to play better? Yes. There is also an element of Alabama was just a beast. Yeah, and it just is what it is. Jav Oak says, what if Locke plays worse? He could lose confidence. It could really hurt him. I would say at this point, it's a good point. But I would say it almost doesn't matter. It's almost sink or swim time for Locke now. So if he plays worse in the era of college football we're in, you can almost, I don't want to say this, but you can almost start to close the book on the Locke era. Because you only get, there's a finite number of opportunities you get as a quarterback at a major college football program. And he hasn't had the cleanest of opportunities, right? He's been thrown in some tough moments, but there's also at some point you gotta seize those chances. And if you don't, you gotta find a new guy. So yeah, I think if he plays worse, he could lose confidence. But I think at that point, you probably have to turn the page, right? Like you probably have to say, okay, for the 2nd year in a row, he's had to come in. Maybe not the easiest opportunity, but for the 2nd year in a row, he's had to come in and he hasn't seized the opportunity. So we got to go in a different direction. And that's where I would go with Locke. Like it's kind of sink or swim right now. Sorry. Like it is what it is. Like if you're going to be the guy moving forward, you got to start to seize these opportunities because we can't wait much longer. We can't because we're being hamstrung and held hostage to some degree by the quarterback spot. And it's time. Yes or no, right? Like it's almost like we're in 4th grade and you're passing the notes between you and your crush and you're like, do you like me? Yes or no? This is like that moment with Braedyn Locke. Like, are you going to be the future starting quarterback? Please check yes or please check no. And I'm hoping he checks yes. Again, like I like him. I like some of the intangibles he brings. He's got to seize that moment now. Slim Lewis said, Bama beat the snot out of us. Yeah, that's okay. As a program, it revealed where we need to improve, which is a lot of places for the record. It is a lot of places. Adam said, I think the pieces are better on Locke. He should be better. Yeah, I don't I'm not throwing that possibility out the window, right? I think he should be better. I think he will be better. And if that's the case, this team can win 6, 7, 8 games. Like, it's frustrating to say it like that because hopes were higher in year 2 of Fickle, but that's still a winning record. And that's probably what you're shooting for this year as a successful conclusion to the season based on what we've seen from 3 games. All right, a couple more comments here. I'm not even going to get to all these because, again, we had so many, which is amazing and incredible. And I try to do these shows so I can, just bring your interactions into it so we can continue building this community. This is from user. He said, Fickle knows how to run the back end, the recruiting, talent evaluation, social media. Agreed. Haven't seen that translate to the field. There's a good chance Luke will need to find some other coordinators. Yeah, and the first part of this is why I put this on the show. That stuff's the foundational pieces, like recruiting, talent evaluation, building the program. I don't know if he is the right coordinators. I think Tressel probably is the guy, and he just doesn't have the defensive line to implement what he wants to do yet. Longo needs to start producing. It's just as simple as that. Like, you have to start putting successful offenses on the field, or this is a very what have you done for me lately business. And I will never ever, I promise you this, I will never ever gleefully call for somebody to get fired or to look to fill someone else into those roles. I don't even like talking about it because these are professions for people. They have families that come with them. Like, nothing would make me happier than for the Longo experiment, the dairy raid, just to work. But it's not. It's not. And ultimately, it is a very bottom line business. You either score points and have a successful offense, or you move on. And so far that hasn't happened. It just hasn't. All right, we're gonna wrap it up there. Let's see if we got a few more comments here. DA Wolf said, "Not giving up here for the ride." Let's go, DA. Let's see. Michael, who has been relatively pessimistic lately, says it is what it is. The Badgers are not good, and Fickle is not that guy. I disagree. I mean, at least on the latter end of that. I'm not going to say the Badgers are good or not good right now, but I think Fickle is that guy, and I think we expected a little too much, a little too quickly, myself included. Right, and I'll own that. All right, let's wrap it up there on Wisconsin. Appreciate everybody so much. When you're here, go check out Locked On College Football, all the biggest news stories, sports, all the biggest stories across college football over on our Locked On Podcast Network on Wisconsin. I appreciate every single person so much. Oh, we got another comment in here. Benson Smooth said there's no reason to be down on Fickle. There's no way he would lose his job prior to 2026 unless he has off-the-field issues. Yeah, he's not. Listen, I'm with you there, Benson. Like, Fickle's not going anywhere, nor should he. You cannot, under any circumstance, start cycling coaches like Nebraska did or like other schools have done. You cannot do that because a new coach comes in, he brings new players, new culture, new identity. Then you start getting in this spiraling cycle, and you're never going to get out of it. I still think Fickle's the guy. I do. But even if he's not, you cannot give up on that in 2 years in or 3 years in. You have to give new coaches an opportunity to succeed. Otherwise, you're always going to be recycling guys. It's never going to work. Slim says, thanks, Ryan. Go Badgers. What's up, Slim? Yeah, Slim, I appreciate. Michael says, I need to worry about Longo's family now. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you got to worry about his family. I'm saying if he doesn't produce, he's got to go. I'm just saying, like, I don't feel great talking about this stuff because I know there's other dynamics in play. I'm just being a human, Michael. Ben Toller says, believe in Fickle. Agreed. All right, y'all, on Wisconsin, we will talk later. Thank you for being up for a late Locked On Badgers. Appreciate you. On Wisconsin, let's talk later.